Hey everyone, it's the Film Maestro, Emilio Rodriguez, coming to you today with a review of the newest James Wan film, Malignant.
This will be a mostly spoiler-free review because the joy of watching this particular movie is to experience just how far James Wan is willing to go. And he actually goes off the deep end with Malignant, and I actually loved every single solitary second of this truly weird movie. So just to give you a brief little synopsis of the movie, in case you haven't seen the trailers, Malignant is about a woman named Madison, played by Annabelle Wallis, who finds herself having dreams of these really grisly murders, and then discovering that these aren't just dreams that she's having. She's actually seeing the murders as they happen. I don't really want to go into any more because there are quite a few surprises with this one. So I'm not going to come here and pretend that Malignant is for everyone, because it's definitely not. If you can avoid the trailers for this movie, please do, because this movie is almost nothing like what's being sold to you in the commercials. But I can see why, because there's actually a huge plot twist that occurs in about the third act of this movie, and it actually makes the whole thing that much better. So what's being sold in the trailers is something akin to two of Wan's other movies, The Conjuring and Insidious, and Malignant is almost nothing like those two movies. With Malignant, James Wan has actually made a fun throwback to the giallo films of the 1970s. For those of you who aren't familiar with the giallo genre of horror, they were actually Italian slashers that contain a lot of blood and gore with a generally high body count. But it isn't just the giallo films that are influences on Malignant. With this movie, it actually feels like something that would have came out in the 80s or the 90s, because there are some moments that are really melodramatic, which comes through with the performances, and in particular the music score. Speaking of which, the score by Joseph Bishara is incredible. From the opening credits, it's a musical score that really just throws you headfirst into the world of the movie. And for me, the music actually really harkened back to Saw. At one point, I actually thought the score for Malignant was done by the composer of Saw, Charlie Clouser, because there are a few musical cues that gave me Saw vibes. But that doesn't take away from the great work done by Bishara. On the acting front, I thought all the acting was solid. Annabelle Wallis, I thought, did a great job as our main heroine, and the scenes that she shares with her on-screen sister, played by Maddie Hansen, were really good. They have a great bond, which comes into play a little later into the movie. But the movie actually does get really bloody. All the kills are gory, but much of the blood and gore is actually relegated to the third act of the movie, and I'd say it actually really does earn that R rating in that department. So I can see the movie having its detractors, especially those that are expecting this to be another Conjuring or Insidious. Again, if you can avoid the trailers for this movie, please do. In the end, I thought Malignant was a blast. I was gripped from the opening scene, and though it hits a narrative lag in the middle, it does pick up with one of the most gruesome finales I've actually seen in a horror movie recently. Wan doesn't pull any punches in the violence department, and the special effects are really on point. The villain is also spectacularly designed, and I actually can see him becoming a fan favorite in the horror genre. It's sad for me to say that even though this movie actually earned solid reviews from critics, it only grossed about $5.4 million last weekend, and it was actually made on a budget of $40 million. So the chances are high that Malignant will most likely be considered a financial disappointment for Warner Brothers at the box office, unless it so happens to break out overseas, which is always possible but not always guaranteed. But it kind of fits the mold because Malignant seems like the kind of movie that is destined to become a cult classic. The kind of film that people didn't see when it originally came out to theaters, but was discovered down the road by people, either via Blu-ray or DVD or streaming. And then it goes on to become more popular than it did when it was first released. Many of those I talked with actually in the horror community have expressed that they really loved the movie. And I believe, even though it isn't for everyone, I feel like this is one of those films that was made for the horror community. Malignant seems made for those that love horror and have a love and appreciation for the weird and unusual. Because again, this film isn't afraid to go to some really weird places. There are a ton of campy vibes with this movie, and Wan seems to understand that and embraces it from the opening scene. I've actually seen quite a few takes online where the viewers said that they either turned the movie off or they nearly did after the first scene because they thought the movie had this really campy B-movie vibe. And even one of my closest friends texted me after the first 10 minutes and said that he and his wife actually turned the movie off because of that first scene, because of the vibes that they were getting. But after I told him that it's actually intentional, the campy vibe is that James Wan actually meant to go with a campy vibe, he took a chance on it and he actually enjoyed it. He actually texted me after it was over and said that he enjoyed it. So if you're one of those viewers that didn't make it past the first 10 minutes of this movie, go back and stick with it. I'd say if you're a horror fan, you'll find a lot to like with Malignant. You might even love it, like I did. It's a movie that seems like it was made for fans of the genre, and some of the places the movie goes is very unique and totally bonkers. As someone that is a massive horror fan, this actually might be my favorite horror movie of the year. I've yet to see Halloween Kills, Last Night in Soho, or Antlers, but Malignant has definitely got a leg up on those, so those movies are going to have to bring their A game if they're going to top Wan's delightfully demented gem. And if you'd like to read my reviews online, be sure to follow me on Letterboxd at letterboxd.com/The Film Maestro. There you can find a log of what movies I've been watching lately, and you can read my reviews for my in-depth thoughts on different films that I've watched. You can also follow me on Twitter at The Film Maestro. I'll see you all at the movies.